Here's the story of a bunch of podcasts who were bringing Cubby content to the world. All of them did their own show. Unconnected, obsessive baseball nerds. It's the story of a bunch of Cubs fans who are consolidating all their shows. They're uniting, doing it together, so we all can grow. Cup of Cubby Blues combining with Sunranto, Baseball Rabbit Hole and Cubs PS Plus. With Cubs Pod and Bricks behind the ivy, they're all teaming up to be the Bleacher Bunch, the Bleacher Bunch. We love the Cubs, that's the way we became the Bleacher Bunch.
I cannot hear you.
All right. Now I can. Well, I did that exit.
Danny's gone mute. He's so surprised Jed Hoyer got extended. He can't talk.
I am shocked.
I didn't realize we had editing and you were taking out all your bleeps.
I was exactly. Why those mother jerks that I can't believe they would. No, it's an emergency Jed Hoyer pod because we'll just start here and welcome. If you've never watched this show before, this is the Bleacher Bunch. We are actually three different Cubs podcasts here, all represented on the Bleacher Bunch, and we're here to talk about what just happened, which is the Cubs before they got any new players to come and help us, get to the playoffs. They decided to unlame duckify their lame duck president of baseball operations. And here comes Jed Hoyer for a bunch of more years. All right. First thoughts.
Okay. So I just want to
let Sarah go first.
What give me the confidence of a guy who is mediocre at his job to go in and negotiate an extension before he has won anything? There is literally not a single postseason appearance that can be credited to Jed Hoyer sans Theo. He has never won anything. They do not give out trophies, to my knowledge, for being tied for first at the trade deadline. And let's be very clear. This team is currently like 1 or 2 injuries away from Vidal Brujan having real playing time. And as far as I can tell, the logic behind this extension at this moment in time is that it was hurting Jed's ability to improve on guys like Vidal Brujan, who he went out and signed or traded for on purpose. So they had to extend him because the lame duck nature was making it hard for him to do deals. And there might be incentives for him to just sell off the farm to save his job otherwise. So therefore, because he has been bad at his job in the past, we must extend him now. So he is not bad at his job right now. And the very last thing I want to say here, it is totally fine if you are a Jed's leaguer who believes that Jed Hoyer's playing 16-dimensional chess with a budget or whatever. But truly, there are front office types who have made it to the postseason with those types of constraints. I'm looking at you, Cleveland. I'm looking at you, Detroit. So the fact that the Cubs have decided they must have some invisible financial constraint that is not real, and that must be managed by a guy who has never made it to the postseason, and somehow 2/3 of a season going pretty well, even though they are 1 injury away from disaster, means he should get to keep his job in perpetuity. That's a joke. And I'm sorry, Cubs fans, we have all been played because all they care about is selling beer bats in the bleachers. They do not care about actually winning or getting to the postseason or a sustainable run. And I'm just going to say right now, I think that this probably means a Kyle Tucker extension is just not happening.
See, I'll go the other way. Not to you and I have talked about Jed 100 times. I don't care about Jed. You're right. He's pretty mediocre at what he does. I think he's done slightly more good than bad, but doesn't blow us away. For me, it's the situation where the way the Cubs are going this year, and the one thing I think you had a really valid point in a tweet I saw from you, that they haven't won anything. They haven't made the playoffs yet. And so, that could still go south. But the trajectory this season is on is not the trajectory of a team that's going to wind up firing its president of baseball operations. And so if Tom is coming to the point of the decision where I know I'm not going to fire him at the end of the season, then you do go ahead and take the lame duck status off and extend him. But
today,
Condition.
the timing is
they
super
should have done
weird.
the thing
Yes.
like conditional. Should be like an extension conditional on making the postseason.
maybe Jed was like, all right, I'm not going to sign our annual third baseman. I'm not trading for our annual third baseman unless I get the extension. And that was like in his negotiations through his agent. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are online in my mentions, like calling me an idiot, amongst other things. But one thing that I saw is a lot of people saying we are the best team in the National League. Well, tied to with the Brewers for best team in the National League. And I'm like, you guys, you know, there were more seasons than the first half of this one, right? Like, you do realize that he's been here for 4 years. And even before that, he was there through the end of Theo's term, which also did not go well. If you have any kind of sense, the first move this man made is the thing that everybody's been mad about all month, which is the thing that keeps coming up again, which is the Kyle Schwarber non-tender. This was Jed's, I think, first move that he made. Blue Friday.
Was that before trading Darvish? I think it was.
I don't know, but let's talk about the Darvish trade for 1 second, because I just want to go back on record on this one. Literally none of the prospects that the Cubs got for Darvish or Victor Caratini has a single major league at bat. Not one. The only player that transferred teams in that deal who did anything in Major League Baseball at all was Zach Davies. And his most memorable act was ghosting his wife. So, like, I want to be very clear that not a single at bat at the major league level has resulted from the Darvish Victor Caratini trade. And yet somehow Jed Hoyer demands an extension so he doesn't mess up another trade. Like, don't get me wrong. The Pete Crow Armstrong deal, great deal, solid move. Really glad that they saw potential in PCA and traded Javier Baez for him. Did any of those other deals work out? Did any
Chafin for Palencia did.
Okay, touche. Palencia worked. So we've got Palencia and PCA. Alexander Canario is on the bench for the Pirates. Like, one of those guys that they traded Anthony Rizzo for just like ghosted the team. He just like went home because he was sick of playing in the Cubs system, period. Like, none of these players, like, who was that guy?
The KB
Brad
deal
Ball,
amounted
Brett
to
Ball,
nothing.
something
Killian.
like that. I don't even remember. Like,
Killian,
the guy yeah, all of these guys are like either out of the league or like, not real major leaguers. And the one guy who looks, out of all of these deals, who looks like he might actually have a shot is Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara. And they're just like sitting there blocked. And the Cubs can't get good deals for them because they're running low on options. And the Cubs have to deal them now. Like, the Cubs have blocked their system in such a way that they cannot get the return they should get for Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara, which is why Jed Hoyer needs an extension, because he has blocked himself. So we must give him more money to do this again.
Well, and the other thing that people are bringing up, they're like, because they went around this year's lineup and they're like, Michael Busch, we got him for nothing. That is not true. We got Michael Busch and Yency Almonte for Jackson Ferris and Zaire Hope, who's the number 2 prospect in the Dodgers system right now. So no, it was not for nothing. We gave up quite a bit for not an aging first baseman. He was right in his wheelhouse of and he was blocked. So, like, it was not for nothing. The other one that they want to point out is the fact that he went and got Dansby Swanson. Now, Dansby Swanson is a great defensive glove first shortstop. The bat, I mean, the power's there this year, but it hasn't been there this whole time. And then people are like, well, he's better than Correa and Xander Bogaerts. And I'm like, is he though? I mean, maybe, I guess, whatever. I would still rather have Trey.
He's not the best of
my
that
choice.
class. I mean, you could argue where he ranks in there. I really still don't like the Xander Bogaerts deal, although Xander's certainly a better hitter than Dansby is. He's not better than Trey Turner. Carlos Correa has other side issues with the injuries and whatnot, so it's hard to judge. But he got one of the 4 and he had to, but he kind of waited around and got the cheapest one, which is one of the criticisms. And one thing I'll be interested to see is they made the extension. Sarah, you and I have gone back and forth on this a bunch of times. It's really hard sometimes to know what is Jed's decision making and what is the constraints that Tom puts on. I say that not as a defense, but just like, it's very easy to look at some of these moves and say, why not go for Trey Turner? Maybe he couldn't. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'll go all the way back to like Theo should have signed Bryce Harper. And if that was something that the Ricketts didn't let him do. That Bryce Harper deal looks pretty good right now, relative to where all the other contracts are and like his output and whatever, but neither here nor there for this moment in time. Look, I agree. We don't know how much of this is the constraints of the Ricketts versus how much of it is the caution of Jed Hoyer and or Carter Hawkins. Conceded, 100% true. But we do know that there are other presidents of baseball operations and general managers who are operating on at least a budget as tight as Jed Hoyer's and or tighter, who are doing better things with that money. So if you have decided Brewers that you are going to be a mid-market team in the third largest media market in America that packs your stands and pays a ridiculous amount of money for tickets and beer every single summer, and you've made that decision for hashtag reasons to save your pocketbook, that is fine, but just go out and get one of those guys who has actually managed a winner on a budget. Like I just returned to the thing that I cannot get out of my head, which is the man has never gotten a team to the postseason without Theo Epstein with him. Period. The end. How do you get a multi-million-dollar, multi-year extension when you've never made the postseason ever?
Well, and the team that is making the postseason, the Milwaukee Brewers, did it with a lot less resources. Even after we stole their manager, they made it to the postseason.
Yeah, but they have devil magic.
Yeah, I want to actually, little Yumper from the top rope. If you can't do your job because of the owner, you shouldn't be here. Like Theo left because he thought he was like, I have 1 year left and I'm not leaving with the Kyle Schwarber non-tender and the Yu Darvish trade on my hands. I'm out. I will take the money.
Jed was the hatchet man. You got to admit, Jed was the hatchet man, whether he was the hatchet man for Ricketts. But even the Schwarber non-tender, he panicked and went and signed Jock Peterson and then really didn't save any money at all.
No.
So, what was the point of it all? Except for now, Kyle Schwarber is a beloved home run hitter in many other cities now. Like, but even Boston, who he played for 5 minutes and committed errors, loves him.
Kyle from Waltham. From Waltham forever.
So it's just really hard to watch. The other thing that people are pointing out, and like I will give some credit. I mean, he got the Nico extension, but that's only a year extra. So I don't really count that. He bought out his ARB years. Yeah. Big deal. The Hap extension, may I remind everybody, a no trade clause.
The reason
which was the dumbest.
Alcantara.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've blocked a guy in left field who could be a great place to stick somebody that you maybe are unsure of with their glove. The one thing he did do was Shota Imanaga. That's a great deal, underpaid. But remember, Shota picked us.
Shota picked too.
Shota, Seiya, Matthew Boyd. These are all exceptionally good signings, and credit what is due. They were all underrated for different reasons. There were parts of their profile that people were worried about or weren't interested in, and all three of those signings are efficient, effective, and great. The problem here is not the handful of good things that have been done. Like PCA is obviously better than I ever dreamed he would be. 10-10, recommend, love it. Like happy about PCA out there. I do think that PCA is going to come back to earth a little bit. You can't swing as much as he does and have like the consistency in the results that he has. Chris Towers, a guy who does fantasy baseball analysis for CBS, had a great thread about this on Blue Sky a couple of days ago. I read whatever you do on Blue Sky, and it was, and I recommend it because he's talking about how Yadier Diaz and Michael Harris II, both of whom were like fantasy baseball stars last year, went really high in drafts and then have kind of cratered this year. And it's because of that swing chase rate volatility that PCA also has. And so it's one of these situations where we're seeing all of the great stuff that PCA can do right now. And the defense is elite, man. Like you'll get no argument from me. He is far and away the best defensive center fielder that I've ever seen on the Chicago Cubs. It is really fun to watch. But he's probably not going to be like a 40-60 guy every single year. Like that's probably outside that's probably like a 95th, 99th percentile outcome. And he's something closer to, a 25-40 guy or a 30-40 guy. And that's also very good. So like there are good things they have
make
done.
The Hall of Fame with that if you can keep it going.
For sure. 100%. The problem is that for all the things that they have done that are good, the Matthew Boyd side, which by the way, like I'm not trying to be a downer here. Matthew Boyd is like, I think has the highest innings total he's had since before the
2000
pandemic right
yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And like,
Exactly.
does anybody really think that's the wheels can't fall off that bus at any point in time? Like, he has had a lot of injury issues. I'm not trying to be a downer, but like, that's just reality. Like, you don't generally throw 200 innings when you haven't done it for a long time.
Well, and people
Matthew
are
Boyd.
pointing out Matthew Boyd. They're pointing out Tucker, but Tucker's a 1-year deal. You know what I mean?
And
It's
you
gave
up so much for him.
you
Hayden
gave
was
up-
Neffy.
Yeah, and not
So
to
here's the other
mention-
point.
Smith.
The other point with Tucker is if the Cubs were to go through the season, not extend Jed, and part ways with them at the end of the year, I could make an argument that it's actually, if the Cubs are going to go all in and be actually serious about signing Kyle Tucker, that it would be potentially easier to have the continuity of the same guy in charge versus, Tucker's getting a million offers while you're trying to figure out who your Pobo is. But there are any number of GMs and potential presidents who could go throw a big number at Kyle Tucker. So like, it's whether or not the Cubs sign Kyle Tucker is going to come down to whether he wants to be in Chicago and whether Tom's willing to pay the money.
Yeah, and even this trade deadline, what I think it remains to be seen what they're able to accomplish. Like, are they willing to add payroll to this team right now? Because they need to. I mean, I don't think it's just the payroll. Like, you can't just pay guys more and then all of a sudden you're good. But it's like, are they willing to add players? Are they willing to, if they needed to, add $10 million, add 15?
But this will start to show me
that first tier, Are they willing?
Yeah, this will start to show me one thing, and then you can jump in, Sarah. In the past, the Cubs have always spent at least like right to the CBT or close to it. If they don't fill in that Bellinger money this year, then that tells me it's probably, I guess it could be Jed, but it's probably Tom. Go ahead, Sarah.
No. I was just gonna say, weren't they over by like
$5 last year?
$1 million or something absurdly small last year? I mean, I like they.
If you're going to go through that first tier, you go through it.
You go through it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go through it. You don't miss the playoffs by 3 games in a year where you barely went over the CBT threshold. I mean, one of the things that makes me real nervous about how they're going to approach this trade deadline, and a Kyle Tucker extension for that matter, that since they were over the CBT last year, they almost need to reset this year. Like, they have to be under it for this year in order to offer the type of money I want them to for Kyle Tucker, and for that matter, a Pete Crow Armstrong extension in the future, right? Like, Seiya Suzuki is coming up on year 5 of that contract pretty soon too. Like, unless you believe, which I do in my heart of hearts, that Moises Ballesteros is your designated hitter of the future, like, you probably want to figure out a way to keep Seiya in the tank too. He is literally the best right-handed Japanese hitter to come over from the NPB. Like, we're not talking, he's a really good hitter. So all of this is to say, I am willing to be wrong if they get a Tucker extension done and it looks like this team is like, they do some great deals at the deadline and they make it to the NLCS, and then they sign Tucker to a 12-year, $550 million deal. And now the team is really ripping the Band-Aid off. But it's hard for me to be all in on that, because the largest contract in franchise history is still Jason Hayward's deal, which starts with a 1, people. It starts with a 1. Like,
and the second number is not 9.
While all the superstars are going for 300, 400, 500 million, our largest franchise deal in history starts with a 1, and that is a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, and let's face it, like, Matthew Boyd worked out, but he was also a reclamation project in many respects. I don't think anybody knew that they would get all-star caliber performance out of him this year. But then the other thing is, you got to look at our farm system right now. It is ranked 8th in baseball, and it was higher. But yeah, not for long if we empty it out for some actual players to help us get through. But the whole problem with Jed up till now is he's been unable to take his Star Wars figurines out of the package and play them, and play with them. And but they have made for nice trade chips here and there. But when you look at some of the trades that he has made, well, you had the third baseman the last 2 years. This became an annual thing. We got Jamer Candelario, didn't work out. Then we got Peralta, didn't work out. They shipped him off. These were stupid moves. And I'm right about that. Peralta? Am
I
I
don't
saying
know.
that
Yeah,
right?
he was there for a brief time.
It's
Yeah.
sure.
The guy that went to the Astros, right?
Sure. I mean, Patrick.
Oh,
That's Isak
Paredes.
Paredes.
He's hurt right
I'm like,
now,
I knew I was saying it wrong.
unfortunately.
Paredes. And so it's just like none of those moves worked out in the first place. But if you look at our farm system right now and you give Jed some credit for building that up to where it is right now, you got to say he's done a pretty good job. But the fact is, it's a farm system. Until these guys come up to play. Yeah. And, and PCA is the best thing to come out of our farm system. Came out of the Mets farm system, frankly.
I'm actually going to give the Cubs credit on this one.
No, the Cubs get PCA.
If you look at the number of plate appearances PCA had in like the complex league with the Mets before he got hurt, like the vast majority of his minor league time was with the Cubs. Okay. So the Cubs get credit for PCA.
I think he said on the compound show, I think he had 6 plate appearances in the Mets.
Yeah, he had like very, very little time
before he got hurt. Okay. Mm-hmm. So and Bush is a Dodgers guy. He was
Bush is definitely a Dodgers guy. Well,
yeah. So everybody else is bought.
Bush thing for 1 second, because this is something that I get ragged on Twitter about all the time. My mute button gets just a workout with all these guys.
He's a platoon guy too, apparently.
Yeah, whatever. Well, he's not anymore. He's working his way out of the platoon, which is good. He should. He shouldn't be sitting against lefties.
Mostly because Justin Turner.
The problem, well, yes, because we have no bench, which is a Jed Hoyer problem, but that's fine. The Bush trade. The problem is not who was traded or that Michael Bush isn't good. Michael Bush is obviously excellent. I like Michael Bush. He's a good first baseman. He's better than a lot of other first basemen in the leagues. Not quite as good as Wilson Contreras has been offensively at first base, but I just have to get that in there. The problem is that Zahir Hope, when he was traded from the Cubs system, was like the 17th best prospect in the Cubs system. And he gets to the Dodgers and is immediately like the second best prospect in a different system, which means the Cubs sold low on Zahir Hope, who is a player that is going to impact one of the best franchises in baseball, and they could have gotten much more for him. The problem with the Michael Bush trade is that the Cubs are trading guys that they either don't have the patience to develop, don't have the foresight to develop, don't have the vision to develop, and they're going other places, and they're absolutely raking, which means the Cubs are always getting a bad return for the trades that they're making. And they're in the same exact boat right now with Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara. They can't get what those guys are worth because they waited too long to trade them. And everybody in MLB knows they're blocked. And I want to be very clear. Ian Happ is going to be a better left fielder this season than any of those dudes. I can't remember who said this on Twitter. I think it was Greg Huss. I want to give him credit, but if it was somebody else, I apologize that I'm not giving them credit.
I think it was Greg.
Greg was like, look, the guy who is most likely to impact the Chicago Cubs this season out of all of those three is Ian Happ. And that is true. But that also means that you're wasting time that Casey and Alcantara could have been impacting other teams, and you could have some other players in your system that you're developing for those guys. Like, why are we always trading these guys at the lower point of their value and not getting enough for them? That is a problem.
Well, and that feeds another frustration I've had. The benches, especially the last 2 or 3 years, have been horrific. So many of these guys, to your point, they don't come up and play. We see PCA kind of came up out of necessity. Well, he came up at the very end of 2023, went 0 for 14. Everybody freaked the hell out. But then last year he came up and got to start that development clock. Like, he got to play when there were some injuries, went back down for 5 minutes, and there were more injuries. And then they just gave him the season. Like, just go and figure this out. And obviously, he's not going to be a 150 WRC plus player his whole career, probably, like you were saying earlier, Sarah. But with that level of defense, if he's a 118, 120 WRC plus guy, he is all-star every year, potentially going to the Hall of Fame, like Danny said.
100%. I mean, he is absolutely a 5 to 7 WAR player with an outside shot. He delivers an 8 to 9 WAR season, which is peak Bryce Harper, peak Mike Trout quality, right? Like, that is elite by all expectations, and I'm glad he's on our team. And talk about extensions. I hope there's a conversation going on with him in an extension right now, because, that's going to cost some money.
Yes, it is.
Imagine if they had done that last year.
Cole says, you realize Bush has 5 years of control. Yes, we do, Cole.
Hold on. let me take this.
Yeah.
I know that Bush has 5 years of control. Thank you very much. I also know that Zahir Hope has 7+ years of control and is
Jackson
sitting in
Ferris,
the Dodgers system ready to be an impactful player. Ferris not only has 7+ years of control, but was also the Cubs' second-round pick deliberately so that they could mess around with the draft amounts and make sure that they got him, the slot value, so that they made sure that they got him. So it's not an arm that they didn't believe in. That's an arm they believed in a whole heck of a lot. And the problem is that if you're trading guys who have elite star potential in other systems for guys who are above average, but not quite an all-star in your system, you're going, over the long term, you're spending that value wrong. Like you're getting hosed on the deal, right? Like you want the flip side of that deal. You want the PCA side of the Javi deal, not the Javi side of the Javi.
Right.
Yeah, but nobody has a problem with Michael Bush. I mean, I think
Michael Bush is great. I love that he should play against lefties. He should play every day. I'm glad he's our first baseman.
Well, and if you really care about guys getting blocked, I mean, now we've blocked Jonathan Long. I mean, 903 OPS right now. I don't either. But I'm saying, like, this is a guy in AAA right now, batting with a 903 OPS, 15 dongs on the year. Like, he's 23 years old.
Taking reps at third.
Yeah, because he's blocked exactly because we've never had a first baseman. I'll be a third baseman. We got to go get a new one every year.
But PCA and Shaw were really the only two at all recently that they have just let go and learn and try to figure it out. Morel for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
And Cam Smith is a pretty good major leaguer in his first 2/3 of a season playing for a pretty good Astros team.
See, I have less problem with that because I think they clearly had a Cam Smith or Matt Shaw thing, and we'll find out over time if they made the right pick or not. But the objection I have is more, and some of these guys have not panned out, so people in the comments can throw it back at me if they want. But, Nelson Velasquez, who you mentioned earlier, Alexander Canario, like these guys got up, did really good things in the minor leagues. Matt Mervis too, and never really got their shot to come up and learn and work through it. And that was on teams that were worse than this one. And one thing that I think the Cubs did really, really well and helped those guys pan out in 2014, 2015, 2016 is even when the Cubs were good and they were contending, if they had an injury, like we did see with Ballesteros earlier this year, they were not afraid to let Schwarber, Contreras, or some of these guys come up and hang on the bench for a month and get, Joe Madden always did a good job of making sure everybody got to play, get 1 or 2 starts every 10 games. And they just do not do that. So we see John Birdie. I sort of forget he's on the team unless he comes in to pitch. And so why could we not have Jonathan Long or Kevin Alcantara or Owen Casey on the bench?
John Birdie. It's a great point. And last year, you could point to the fact that they had Nick Madrigal there for the longest time, who had to sit there and look. We had to watch him learn to play third base. Miles,
if we have to have John Birdie, why do we not have Miles Mastrobuoni still?
Yeah, exactly. Miles Mastrobuoni is another one. The other guy is who's the dude that was an all-star? Zach. Go back another year.
Zach McKinstry was an all-star.
Exactly. He was an all-star. We just, these guys, I mean, you can't look at Jed and be like, oh, it's Jed's league, 7D chess, when he's just letting like dudes like that play and all-stars like slip through his fingers. Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
You didn't kill my soul, but I do have a point to make here that I think is relevant and related to what Danny was just talking about with the bench, right? Like, this is an unusable bench. Like, I truly... Justin Turner apparently has some sort of like intangibles, like brings something great to the team.
Yes, he does. Chris Salato points it out. Fake scrotums. That is the greatest thing.
Whatever Justin Turner brings to the, I'm not sure why Anthony Rizzo couldn't have been the guy to bring that to the team. I do understand.
He seems like a fake scrotum.
And I know he's a lefty, but like, if you're going to sign a backup first baseman to be the mascot, make it the guy who was a World Series hero to all of us. Don't make it the guy who was a World Series hero to the Dodgers. But Justin Turner, fine, keep him for, giggles or whatever. Vidal Brujan, John Birdie, what are we doing here? Like, the thing that differentiated the 2016 Cubs from this team is that Chris Coughlin could give you a useful at-bat. Tommy La Stella could pinch hit and get a hit, right? Like, 3 a.m., wakes up at 3 a.m. and gets a hit, can play at second. I didn't cringe every time Tommy La Stella was at third base. I do in fact cringe every time John Birdie or Vidal Brujan is at third base. Like this is not an adequate bench. And the fact that they can't upgrade this with even some real base, like how is James Triantos not a better player than either Vidal Brujan or John Birdie at this point in time? Like how is it that Jonathan Long is not up to get those reps instead? Why are we not, this team is one injury away from an absolute disaster. And instead of having Kevin Alcantara on the bench getting reps 4 times a week, they just keep rolling Tucker and Seiya and Hap out and PCA out there. One of those guys gets hurt, this whole postseason dream is over. Serious. Like there's no
with the Brewers playing,
for any of those guys.
With the Brewers playing like they are, and there's a team that has a bench. There's a team that plays all their guys. There's a team that is on the bottom of the league when it comes to all of their offensive stats.
Well, they have a bench because their offense is terrible. But.
Yeah, their offense is terrible. It's all the pitching that they, how they win games, but also they score a fair amount of runs, being very low in every other offensive category. The Brewers score runs. The Cubs do too. They won one of the best offense. Everybody's pointing that out to me. Oh, how could you be mad about the Jed thing? He built this amazing offense. I'm like, it took him 5 years. Where have you been?
It took him 5 years and trading 7 years of Cam Smith, 5+ years of Hayden Wisniewski, and 3+ years of Isaac Paredes for 1 year of Kyle Tucker, who he may or may not extend, probably won't given what we know about the Ricketts. And it is bananas to me that this organization has decided to re-up on the strategy of mediocrity for a bit, trade the farm for a hope of 1 year, mediocrity for a bit, which is not how you run a functioning contender year in and year out. I'm sorry, it's just not. Like, this is how... You know what it reminds me of? And I hate saying this. It reminds me of those Marlins teams from like the 90s and early 2000s where they were all in and then they traded everybody. And then they were all in and they traded everybody. And like, that is not the team that I want to root for. I want the guys who come up with the team to be like the guys that we can cheer for. And, I'm sorry, this is a little bit all over the place. But the last thing I want to say here, another part of that 2016 team that we don't appreciate enough, what Wilson Contreras did is unbelievable. Came up in the middle of the year, not supposed to come up, wasn't even the backup catcher on opening day. That was supposed to be, that was David Ross, Miguel Montero, and Kyle Schwarber was the backup. Wilson Contreras comes up because Ross and Montero both get hurt, literally never goes down again. And Madden just keeps playing him everywhere. He plays left, he plays right, he plays first, he plays third, because they need his bat in the lineup. That the Cubs don't, who is that guy for the Cubs? Who is the guy that comes up that hits so well that you're like, wow, can't take him out of the lineup? They literally don't have that guy. And I'm sorry.
We don't know. They might.
Go ahead.
You finish and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I was ranting.
Okay.
They
might have that guy, but we don't know because they don't bring him up. I mean, that was something that the Cubs did back then under Theo and Joe. It was the same thing with Kyle Schwarber in 2015. He wasn't supposed to be up yet, but he came up with some injuries. He was up and down as they needed him. And then he took off in the postseason, and we see what he does in the postseason all the time. I think there's every possibility that Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey, James Triantos, Jonathan Long could be those guys. And I get to some extent wanting those guys to play every day versus sitting on the bench and not playing. But I trust Craig Counsell. I've seen him in Milwaukee rotating guys, getting guys work and getting guys rest. There's no reason why we can't have one or two of those guys at least on this bench over John Birdie and Vidal Brujan and Justin Turner. Even if we just give Justin Turner the due for his veteran leadership, whatever, there's still 2 or 3 other holes. And people always point to it. And I do this a lot at times too, but talk about like James Triantos and some of those guys not being on the 40-man. It doesn't matter because Jonathan Birdie and Vidal Brujan take their spots and give it to those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at this year of what the Cubs have accomplished. And no, even with, let's say there is no big injury and we do get to go through and we have all our starters in the playoffs, you could look at this year and say that Jed did a good job putting together this team. You could this year, but there's a longer track record than that. And this year, I also think about our pitching, whereas where they've had some depth, be able to come up and do well. Your Colin Rays of the world and stuff like, the cracks are starting to show in that, but he's done really well for what he was asked to do, which is a guy that wasn't even supposed to be in the rotation. You have Assad down, you got Steele down. So they had enough to kind of backfill that. But if they can't manage, and they're rumored on everybody, if Jed can't manage to front fill this with at least a quote unquote number 2, even a number 3, if I know they're rumored in on the dude from the Nationals,
Mackenzie Gore.
Mackenzie Gore, Rysel Iglesias. I know. Well, exactly. The guy's got an ERA in the 4s right now, I think.
But the problem is his whip.
Yeah, I saw that too. It was like 1.3 or something.
He walks a lot of guys.
So, and you do need help. You need these innings. But when I look at our bullpen, even this year, when I take into account this year, they started with one group of guys because of injury, because of other reasons, but their only signing is not working out, which is Ryan Presley. Like, he was their big bullpen signing of the year. It's not working out.
He was a trade.
Or a trade. That's right. Everybody else.
Caleb Tealbar was a signing. He's working out.
He's working out. Yeah, a signing, but they've had to like switch out the bullpen almost completely from what they started with, what they have now. So that's either really great that they made those moves and they're willing to move on from guys, or they were just wrong in the first place. You can look at it both ways.
It's some of both.
But
I think it's some of both.
This is an interesting comment from Terry that I want to focus on for 1 second, because it's related to what you're talking about, Danny, in terms of like who plays and like why and what gets the difference in Milwaukee Craig and Chicago Craig. In Chicago, he gets pressured to play the guys who make big money. I'm not even sure that's true. I think that he just doesn't have a ton of options. Like, the backup shortstop for Dansby is Nico. Nico plays every day already. The backup second baseman is Vidal Brujan or John Birdie, and that's bad. So like those are options he doesn't want to use unless the Cubs have like a 9-run lead. Like, he's more likely to put Birdie in as a pitcher than he is to put Birdie in as a backup at short, right? Or like that, or he wouldn't play short, but at second. Brujan, I guess, theoretically could play short. I don't know.
He did play either. I think he did. I'm not sure if he.
So the point being that like the bench is just really depleted, and I don't know. They need a guy. They need like a Willie Castro on this team. And I really don't think it should take that much to go get Willie Castro from the Twins at this moment in time, right? But like, they just don't have that guy.
Yeah. And that's many years going that it's been like this.
Mike, here's a question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mike, you made a lot about how the Cubs needed to improve their bench. And last year you were really kind of down on the construction of the bench. This year you thought it was better, and it just didn't really pan out the way it's not.
I was wrong on that, but
the year before that, they had a pretty high payroll. They've been coming in top 10 in payroll, and they're not making the playoffs. The Brewers are coming in like mid to low end of the league in payroll, and they're winning the division. So I'm just looking at those very Occam's razor sort of ways to look at it, and
the last thing I want to say,
it's a fail.
Cubby Noel points out we're 2 minutes from first pitch. I'm sure everybody wants to see this Brewers Cubs game in total. So we will let you. But I
hit homers off Mizorowski.
The thing that the Cubs were missing the last couple of years, the reason they finished like 3 games out of the wild card, was a big bat. And they went and got that big bat. His name is Kyle Tucker. But the problem is you have 1 year of Kyle Tucker, and if you don't re-sign him at the market rate for a Kyle Tucker, because it appears he would like to test the market rate. You did not sell him on Wrigley Field and its hopes and dreams as a discount, nor should you, because the man deserves his money. If they're not going to pay that, they're not going to pay it for anybody, right? Like they weren't in on Juan Soto. They really they kind of tried with Shohei Ohtani, and they came up like $200 million short. If you're not in on Kyle Tucker, all of us should just assume for the foreseeable Jed Hoyer future that the Cubs are not in on big free agents, period, the end.
Yeah, we haven't seen him sign any, except, Dansby, but that was, that was a while ago.
that was literally, and I made this analogy at the time, and I'll say it again. That was the year there were like 4 or 5 shortstops. I think there were 4, and then Xander got thrown in the mix because of the opt-out. And the Cubs went out and they looked at all the Cadillacs and Lamborghinis and Porsches on the lot, and they were like, we're going with the Prius. And that was a really smart decision because Dansby is a great defender and you know exactly what you're going to get from him. And it was a wise decision in the long run. But I just want Cubs fans to know they're going to charge you for a Porsche and they're going to sell you a Prius.
Yeah. But it's got AM FM radio and a CD player. 6-disc changer.
I'll have my last comment on Jed right here, and then we can turn it over to you guys and we can go.
We should watch the game is what we should do.
Let me get this with this one more thing and then I'll bow out. But the thing with Jed, it's not the extending him now or the firing him. This is why I hate lame duck situations. The Cubs needed to make a decision heading into last offseason. Either extend him and give him the runway to know that he's the guy, all the decisions are long-term, or get him out because he's in a situation where we all look at that Tucker deal and we're wondering, is he just giving the farm away for 1 year of Tucker so he can save his job? Maybe he'd have made that trade anyway. We'll never know. But decide or not, this trying to ride the middle I hate it. I hate it with coaches and I hate it with.
We agree on that.
I'm actually a little disappointed that we didn't see the Jed Hail Mary pass this trade deadline where we just emptied the farm system out for just like all the best players, because frankly, we're all getting older. I kind of would like to see the Cubs win a World Series. I know all those armchair GMs sitting at home just kind of want to win the trades. I want to win the games. That's where I want to win the World Series. I don't care about winning trades, although you have to do some of that to win the World Series, but you can have you can be the Angels and have all these good players and never actually win anything. So you have to put together a team. I think Jed's put together a good one this year. If they win the World Series, I will still think he sucked 4 out of 5 of the years that he had this job so far.
That's right. I think that's right. And I also think that I want to win the games too. I go to a lot of them. They're more fun when you're winning. They're more fun when you can come back. They're more fun when the pitching's good. It's not fun when you're getting hammered. Danny, do you remember that game right after Blue Friday that we were at in Corbin Burns?
It's like a funeral.
Striking out all of the guys that came up in the wake of the 2021 Cubs that we let go. And we're literally like, well, maybe we're just rooting for Corbin Burns to set a strikeout record now because that's the most interesting thing we'll see at Wrigley Field for the foreseeable future. That sucked. And also, the reason I fell in love with this team was Ryan Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg during the Sandberg game was enough to fire something off in my 4-year-old brain that this is the team I was going to root for. I am a stubborn human. And so I have stayed that course the entire time. That is not an exaggeration to say that I would not be in love with baseball or be here at this moment without that game and falling in love with baseball through Ryan Sandberg. And my favorite moment as a Cubs fan was when they made Ryan Sandberg the highest paid player in baseball history. I was so proud of my team that they made my favorite player, who I thought was the greatest baseball player in the history of the world, the highest paid player in the sport. And it sucks that now I cheer for a team that will never make anyone the highest paid player in the sport.
And they've even done that as recently as Alfonso Soriano. That was a huge deal.
That was a huge deal. And I miss the days when the Cubs were in the big name, the big name business.
John Lester.
John Lester and Jason Hayward, those were big deals at the time.
Yeah.
Ben Zobrist,
no matter how Jason Hayward turned out, that was a big signing at the moment they got him.
Look, Jason Hayward earned every penny of that contract during the rain delay, and I will die on this.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. So, let's end it there. Let's go watch the Cubs game. This was.
I get to see you guys this weekend. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and come to Ranterfest. Go buy your tickets, and we'll see you there. It's sunranter.com/Ranterfest. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for hopping on, guys, and go Cubs. Let's sweep the Brewers. Spagog.
Here's the story of a bunch of podcasts who were bringing Cubby content to the world. All of them did their own show. Unconnected, obsessive baseball nerds. It's the story of a bunch of Cubs fans who are consolidating all their shows. They're uniting, doing it together, so we all can grow. Cup of Cubby Blues combining with Sunranto. Baseball rabbit hole and Cubs PS Plus. With Cubs fun and breaks behind the ivy. They're all teaming up to be the Bleacher Bunch. The Bleacher Bunch. We love the Cubs. That's the way we